The first step in your software delivery process is planning. Today, we'll be looking at how you can actually create and configure an Azure DevOps project. And that's where the planning starts from. So, before I dive into the practical section and how we can actually create and configure this Azure DevOps project, let me just explain what a project means. A project in Azure DevOps provides a place for users to plan, track progress, and collaborate on building software solutions. I would say, in summary, a project represents a fundamental container where you can store your data and source code. And the last video, why creating an organization, a project was also created for us. Like I've actually explained, there is a little you can do when creating your project while you are creating your organization. But today, we'll look at how we can actually create our project after we have been able to log into our organization. So let's start by signing into our DevOps organization. Like I said the last time, so for you to visit your DevOps organization, all you need to do is just to type the URL dev.azure.com/ the organization name. The organization name we created that day was DevOps NG. So this is going to take us to a page where we need to authenticate. Yes, something I did not explain the last time. Yes, I created my DevOps organization using a Microsoft account. So you will notice that I only supply the password. The password I entered that day is actually my Microsoft account password. So you will notice I did not create any password. Yeah, so I'm going to sign in with that same credential, and that will take us to the DevOps organization page. So femi.a at outlook.com. Same Microsoft password, depending on what you have actually created your DevOps organization with. Which is so currently we have one project created for us. That was when we were trying to create, you know, our DevOps organization. So today we'll be looking at how we can create a project today. Today we'll be looking at how we can create a project from scratch. Create our project. All we need to do is just to click on the new project button. You can see there, and let's say the DevOps roadmap, name of the project, and I can just copy these to the description. So the description, the project name, just like the organization name, can be changed later. So last week we were able to at least change the organization policy to allow public project feasibility. So today I can select the public, but I do not want a public project for now, so I will stick with the private project. Now, if I click on the advanced, you can see the version control. One thing you need to note here is if I select the Git version control system, I'm able to create 1,000 projects under this my organization. However, if I select the Team Foundation version control, which is the central repository control, I will only be able to create just one project. So I'm going to stick with Git because what we're using now is not a centralized control system. So we're using the Git distributed control system. Then, so there are different work item process, which we'll be discussing when we start talking about the Azure board. So today, I'm just going to stick with Azure, or let's say Sham. It's just for me to create the project. Now, why to create our project? Now, when our project is created, there are some things that will be created by default. Like the first theme there'll be a team that will be created for us with the same name. Again, our repo will have the same name. So let's just take a look at what I'm saying. Well, we're not going into the services today. We're just going to look at how we can actually configure or manage this project. So let's take a look at the repo. Now you can see a repo has been created for us with the same name. I go to board, you would see that a team has also been created for us, and the name of the team is DevOps Roadmap. So, like I said, we are not looking at the services today. What we are looking at today is managing that project. So, to do that, all we need to do is just to click on the project setting, and let's take a look at what we can do under this project setting. Just like the organization, the first thing you can see here is the overview. On the overview page, this is where you have the name of the project, the description of the project. Like I said, it's something you can edit, so I can. However, if I change the name of this project, all the users in the project will be notified. Currently, I do not have any other user than myself. So I'm just telling you, should in case you have a project that is already existing, if you go there and change the name, everyone will be notified. So you can see the process here. I can change if I decide to change the process, that had been assigned, to this particular project where I was creating. Yes, I can do that. I can change the process, but currently, I will. These are just the work item under this particular process. Like I said, we're not talking about the processes now. But if I want to change, I need to go back to the organization settings to change the project and process. We'll take a look at that. Okay, let me just duplicate this. Then let's just quickly take a look at that. How we can change the process, of our project. So if I go back to DevOps engine, then I click on the organization name. Then I need to go to processes or process. Then I've created a Scrum project. So if I click on this, you will see that project here. Then I can say change process, maybe move to agile. This is warning me that the work items are not the same for all these processes. So you need to be sure that that's what you really want. You need to know how you want to map that particular process, with the new one that you've just created. So you can see that my project has actually moved, to the agile project. So we're not looking at that today. So let's just go back to the project settings. So you can change the visibility. If at any time you feel like this should be an open source project, I can change it back to public, but I'm not doing that. Another thing is, because I created the project, I'll be assigned the project administrator. Then I can add new administrator, I can add more administrators. Here you will see the services that has actually been enabled for this project. If there is no need for me to have an artifact service, I can turn that off. If there is no need for me to have a pipeline service, I can turn that off. But for now, I'm just going to leave everything as it is. Also, like I said, while creating our organization, I said you can actually delete your organization. Same thing, you can delete the project. And also, you can also restore that project within 28 days of deletion. So we are not going to delete. So the next thing is the team. Now, like I've actually said, a default team will be created for you, which has the same name as your project name. And as you can see, this is where you have the member of the project. Now, currently, we have only one member, and that's my own user account because I created the project. Now I can decide to add, more team to the project. I think you can have up to 10,000 teams, assigned to a particular project. Then the permission level is the next thing we'll talk about. Now, The project administrator can perform all the operations in this Teams project. There are some other permissions that can be assigned to users to allow them to contribute to this project. So these are the default permissions you can assign, to users that you have actually added to this your project. Now you can see the users that are currently in this project. So like I said, we have only one user now because I'm the only one present, in the organization and the project. The next thing is the notification. Same thing as we have it under the organization platform. Okay, so you want to get notified, um, based on events that are happening inside the project. When a build is completed, when a pull request reviewer is added or removed, when a pull change is done. So you want to get notified on any event happening, within your project. Service hook is just like an extension. Let's say I want to integrate um this my project with Slack. Whenever there is a pull request, whenever there is a failed build, you can actually do that. I think we should have Slack here. Yeah, we should have Slack. If you want to run, let's say you have created a Jenkins server and you want to run your build your Jenkins server, so you can actually integrate your Jenkins. So Microsoft Teams, Office 365, whatever hook, service hook you want to integrate to your project. This can actually be done, from this blade. The next thing is the dashboard to gain more visibility on the project. The next thing is the board, where we'll talk about, the iterations, the area parts. So for every project, you want to set some iterations, you want to set some sprint, as your users, or let's say as your team members are actually working, you want to be able to monitor how long they've actually used on a particular feature. So you can define you can define the features you want to have on your application or on your software into sprints and have them, set within this. So I can set up sprint, I can say version 1, then set up the date. Same thing goes the area part. For every team you've created, the team will have its own area part. So there is always an area part. Currently, we have only one area part, which is the DevOps roadmap that belongs to the team that we've created. Teams configuration. Under teams configuration, this is where you manage backlogs. This is where you manage the working days. This is where you want this is where you manage if bugs are to be assigned, or to be added to the work process. The next thing is the GitHub connection. So you can connect your GitHub account with this setting. Next thing is the agent pool. I think we talked about this under the organization. Yeah. So under agent pool, this is where you have, let's say, the collections of agents that are running your job. So agents are needed to be able to build and release your pipelines. This is where those pipelines actually runs on. So we have the Microsoft agent pool, and they have the default agent pool, which currently there are no agent attached to it. So if you want to create your own agent pool, this is where you create your own agent pool. If you want to add a new agent to an agent pool, this is where you do that. For parallel job, I think we did not really talk about it the last time. So, you can see we have Microsoft hosted, for private. We have self-hosted, where you currently have one parallel job. So by default, Microsoft doesn't assign, any parallel job to your account again. So you need to actually request for this. So I think before we start running our pipelines, I will have requested for this. There's this URL where you can request for your parallel job. I will add this to this video so that should in case you want to request for your own parallel jobs also, you can do this. This will always take This will take 2 to 3 working days, so you need to request on time so that you can follow along if you want to use the Microsoft hosted agent. The next thing we'll be looking at are just some settings. So the retention settings, how long do you want to keep, your build, your run? How long do you want to keep your pull request? And some of the settings where you can actually restrict, users on what they can do. Next one is this test management. Under test management, we take a look at the flaky test detection. What is the flaky test? So when you test your application, even when there is no change, you will notice that sometimes you get different test results. So this is what we call flaky test. So we want to detect if this is actually happening, and this is where you set that up. Then for service connection, for you to be able to, at least for your Azure DevOps to be able to authenticate into the Azure portal to make use of resources or any other external services, you need to create a service connection that connects your Azure DevOps with that service. So this is where we'll do that just purely for authentication. Then we have this SAML build services, which has been deprecated majorly for TF. This just shows you how your build will actually run. This is just going to give you an insight of how your build runs. Then the next setting is just the repository. Like I've actually said, when you create your project, a repo will also be created for you by default, and that will have the same name as your project. And that's what you can see here. So you can actually make some settings, which we'll be looking at when we start at least looking at the Azure repos. You want to restrict or rename your default repository. You want to restrict, you know, the creation of branches. So this is where you do that. The policies. And I think the last thing, okay, not the last thing, the storage. This is just talking about how your package services, how your packages are actually being stored. So yeah, the artifact after you have actually built, you want to store your artifact, or you have a predefined artifact you want to save. So yeah, we'll be talking about the test retention, how long you want to keep your automated test run before they have been discarded. Next video, we're looking at the services. Um, One after the other, talk about the overview, the board, the repo, the pipelines, the test plan, and the artifact. See you in the next class.